Good morning once again, and welcome to the Morning Mindset edition of the Live, Build, Change podcast. I am excited to get into today's episode because I'm eager to talk about what we have on the agenda for today. If you were a listener yesterday, you heard that we're going to be spending a few days here. It's probably more than a few. It's probably going to be 8 to 10 days looking into what it means that God himself revealed himself to Moses as the I am. That's what God says his name is. It's really in Hebrew the word Yahweh, but the literal meaning is I am. And God does nothing by accident. He does nothing just casually. He has intention and purpose behind everything he does. And the same is true for him revealing his name. His name says something to us about who he is. And I want to give full disclosure here. I'm going to be using a list of things that John Piper has written about what he believes it means that God revealed himself as I am. And he says there are at least 10 things that the name Yahweh, I am, says about God. And today I want to look at the first one. When God reveals himself as I am, he's saying that he never had a beginning. Now, of course, as John Piper rightly points out, every child asks that question, right? If you didn't as a child, or your children didn't as a child ask, who made God? Or where did God come from? Then that's probably the exception, because most children at some point in their lives, when they are in a home that God is spoken of and faith is discussed, they eventually ask, who made God? Where did God come from? And every parent has the challenge of answering that question. And really, the only reason it's a challenge is because it doesn't fit into our human way of thinking. Because we're talking about God. You know, the wise parent says, nobody made God, dear. God simply is. God has always existed. He had no beginning. And I wonder how that resonates with you, to know that the God that we serve, and maybe more significantly to us, the God who cared enough for us to send his only Son, has no beginning. He is entirely self-existent. That's an incredible thing to think about. Our God, he's infinite. He has no beginning when it comes to time. In fact, I believe God is entirely outside of time. He exists in an entirely different realm, which means he had no beginning. This fact that God never had a beginning gives us great stability in our day-to-day. It enables us to know that long before the difficult circumstance we're facing came into our lives, God was here. Our God was here. He knew that circumstance would come. In fact, he's an intimate part of how it came about, because he is the one who has always existed and controls everything by the word of his power, which we're going to get into in one of these future days. But let me just remind you, as you look at the day ahead, you have a God who is unshakable, a God whom the circumstances of your life cannot impact, because he has always been your God. That's your God, and he's reached down to you through his Son, Jesus Christ, to bring you into his family. So apply your faith today. Rest in him today, confident, secure, free of anxiety, because your God is the great I am, the one who has always been. Let's look some more at who our God is on tomorrow's Morning Mindset edition of the Live, Build, Change podcast.